All right, Jamie. Pretty excited to do that. So yeah, we met at the Build Cheap Market community, and I've seen you've been doing a few experiments with ads. I think it's been mostly just like coalescing, at least from what I've seen. I'm sure you have like a bunch of other experiments in the background, but so I'm assuming, you're quite technical because, obviously setting up ads and all that stuff is not super straightforward. So maybe using, those vibe coding tools or Claude Code is not that um, difficult for you. But I'm curious, yeah, how did you start? Like, have you been coding before, a few experiences with that or not at all?
No, so I've worked with engineers for like 20 years now. I'm an engineer myself, like an old school one,
Okay,
a mechanical engineer,
nice.
and I've worked with developers, I guess I should say, for a couple decades. So I know how to communicate with them,
Hmm.
and like from like designing, planning. I do a lot of the design, so like in terms of like UX and experience, like I'll work with them to figure things out. And over the years, I've figured out how to get the ideas across and how to predict what challenges they might have. I have a pretty decent understanding of architecture and sort of what's needed to make software work, but I have zero syntax ability. I'm not very good with languages, spoken or, coded. So this for me was sort of like it instantly felt so familiar for me because I've been speaking with developers for such a long time that
Hmm.
that's how I speak to Claude or Cursor or whatever. It's just like, okay, well, did you think about this? And like, I found that I can kind of predict the pitfalls that it finds itself going down. So yeah, but
Nice.
as far as what I've been working on, I have tried quite a few times to make ads work. My particular products don't suit ads very well from like a generative perspective.
Oh, I see.
Like I've noticed that I'm sure you have too on X and other places, people will share like the latest and greatest output from ChatGPT or now like VO3 is like all over the place. A
Hmm.
lot of the time the products are pretty straightforward, predictable kind of shapes, or like it's just like a bottle with a label on it. My stuff is like given that it's artwork, so I'll give it like a product mock-up or a photograph and I'll say like do something with this, like put it, in someone's hand or even just add text around it. And what I find it does is it sort of AIifies the artwork itself. And it just kind of
Oh,
looks like it's been run through some kind of anime filter or something like that. Like it's just different. So I've
yeah.
hit several dead ends on that front. And so instead, where I've spent majority of my time is on the like operations side of the business, like automating annoying tasks,
Hmm.
or making broad changes to the products in my catalog on Shopify. It's a print-on-demand business with several hundred artists and several thousand images across those artists. And then we support every single iPhone, all the MacBooks, and then within the iPhones, there's like three different types of products you can
Yeah.
get for each one. And so it quickly multiplies out. I think my Shopify catalog is like 220,000 different SKUs.
Yeah. Well,
And so making broad changes
yeah.
is super difficult. I'll, I don't know if you want me to keep going on that front, but
I mean, I think that's interesting, and that's where like I'm seeing a lot of people going through dead ends like you are, right? Where it's and I personally I don't know if annoyed is the right term, but I find it a bit deceptive to be like, oh, you just like one shot this prompt and then you just get this like awesome product or image or whatever. And when you dig deeper, you realize those are usually very simple use cases. Like if you want to tackle something like more complex, and I mean like, 200K like SKUs is like massive, like you probably need, some sort of infrastructure or thinking about, the infrastructure or how the process would go. And in the end, it's not like, oh, just craft a prompt and boom, like you get the job done.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I recently, so here's like one example. I was paying $500 a year for a search app on the storefront. And the main reason that I used it was because I was able to, without any code for, a decade now of being on Shopify, I was able to hide custom products. In addition to the artist stuff, people can upload a logo or a photo, whatever they want. But without proper search parameters, those same products would end up being in everybody else's search results. So
I see.
I would see your weird photo, of you in a Speedo on the beach that you got for your wife,
Yeah, very personal.
right? Alongside a bunch of artwork. And so anyway, I thought it was just kind of ridiculous that I was paying that much money for an app to just do that one thing. So I downloaded the theme from Shopify, added it to GitHub, synced it over, and then just with Cursor, I talked through it may have been with Claude Code, but anyway, with Cursor, I said, I've got this problem. I need to figure it out. And what I ended up having to do was we worked through, made a script that was going to add a Metafield to it, like in a batch manner. And you're right, it wasn't just a matter of saying, do this thing. It was, it had to get the entire, figure out which products had a certain vendor. In this case, custom products were vendors, and then pull all the results in and like paginate them and work through without, obliterating the memory on my MacBook Air, and deal with it in like a piecemeal manner, and then create another JSON file that was like a running list of the work that had been done so that it could be terminated and resumed. Totally impossible for me to do on my own, like
Yeah.
completely above my pay grade. But this worked and took maybe 3 hours, and then it ran
Oh,
overnight,
wow.
and I woke up in the morning and it was done.
You had to like let it run. Yeah, I guess for
Yeah,
a while to just like change all those.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I woke up, I uninstalled the app, and then I
Nice.
again in the same theme file, I had to figure out how to exclude, like an SEO hidden type value from, so that same tag or metafield that I'd added now had to be hidden from results on the theme. So that was part two. It's worked perfectly.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you really had like $500 just to hide those, not
Basically,
necessarily for the search function across like different products, right?
the search
Okay.
function itself was a bit more rich, but when I upgrade my theme, I'm currently running version 2 of Shopify's sort of standard Dawn theme, which is ancient at this point. And all the newer themes have like really nice results filtering and various different settings you can do. So once I finish again using AI to help with my theme upgrade, I'll be exactly where I want to be.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's what's pretty cool, and I'm seeing so many examples, and I think it's so nice that those kind of like use cases, because I'm assuming it's that thing that runs in the back of your mind, or that's kind of there and that's annoying you, but you're like, oh, it would take
Yeah.
so much effort, or why am I spending so much money for that specific thing?
Yeah.
And obviously, if you had to do it yourself, like I'm sure you could figure it out, but then the amount of time and headaches you would have to go through
Honestly,
to
like
do
some of
it.
these things, the starting point for me would be having to understand how to write enough code to get the job done. It would probably take me weeks, if not months, to figure out how
Yeah.
to do some of these scripts. And what I've done, and instead it's hours. And you
Hmm.
hit the nail on the head. Like, as someone who's technical in a sense, but like unskilled, I don't know if it's like a new class. Like, I feel like probably a lot of founders, non-technical founders, find themselves in this situation where
Hmm.
they have like obviously a deep understanding of their product and their store and how things integrate with the back end and things like that, but no ability to make broad changes. And there's just countless little missions that stack up over time, and you just, unless you're like really sitting pretty cash wise and cash flow, it's really
Yeah.
hard to justify not only the money but the time of reaching out to someone and saying, hey, can you help, and then the back and forth,
Hmm.
and then they go away for a week and come back with something that's like kind of weird or diverges, or does some damage that you then have to like roll back.
Mm-hmm.
This just, it's like all those little pieces of detritus that like build up that make your company feel heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I can now just sit down at night or in a quiet room for half an hour and just deal with it.
Yeah.
It's very liberating on that front.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess like it's quite relieving to be like, okay, I can actually just, figure it out somehow, even if it's maybe not the whole technical implication, at least, having a high level strategy on how you would tackle it. Because
Hmm.
obviously, it takes some time, like we were saying, like if you need to do a bunch of back and forth because maybe you just don't understand the problem well enough or you don't have, enough knowledge or, context around the specific problem. So you might be going in blind and then you have to
Yeah.
potentially talk to a bunch of different, vendors or contractors or whomever
One
to
of the
really
things
understand
that
what's going on, right?
yeah, so one of the things that has helped, so I used to just go in blind and say, I have this problem, like, let's figure it out. And
Yeah.
I've learned that that's like, it needs more, I guess, context. One of the things that Amir, who runs this little community that we're part of, he introduced me to just through his posts was this like product requirements
Mm-hmm.
document. I didn't know what that was. I've never worked at a tech company. I've just had my business for 20 years.
Yeah.
So there's so many standard things that I'm not aware of. Starting with that helps because then you can say, I want to do this. Can you generate what you think I'm talking about? And then you can review it. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, change this, change that. And I think we're on the same page. Let's try this out.
Yeah. And then it's a matter of actually executing on that. Or, I mean, you could literally take that PRD and then hire someone if it's too complex, right? For you. I mean, I think your example about, paying $500 for that specific use case is quite interesting. And I wanna ask you, because I'm assuming you're like, probably if you go through that adventure, like little quest that you went on, run the script overnight, then you're come back the next day and you're like, wow, this is awesome. That thing that cost me like thousands and is now solved and I don't have to think about that.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like here it sounds like pretty clear cut, it's like $500 per month and, a couple of hours of your time. It sounds like a pretty easy decision. You're like, yeah, why wouldn't I do that?
Hmm.
But I'm curious to hear from you, how do you see that? Because I'm assuming there's plenty of situations in your business where you're like, there's some sort of tool that I could buy, or would I just actually build that? And I'm assuming maybe you're excited and sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I should like build it, just to
Honestly,
go
I
for it.
figured we would talk about this. That's one of the biggest challenges. And I don't know if it's my possibly undiagnosed ADHD or something acting up, but like I have to rein myself in. Now I'm like, this little thing that I might have to spend an hour doing is very tedious while I could just build something to do that and I'll never have to do it again. But then you end up spending 2 hours on it. And then,
Yeah.
you know, it's, it's like, yeah, it's tricky because you feel like you can kind of do whatever you want, but it may not be the most practical. I think in my case, because I've been doing this particular business for so long, and there's so many things that I have to do that are just tedious, it was pretty easy to just focus on stuff that was like either like an immediate savings on
Hmm.
some subscription or a massive reduction in error rate of something that I do commonly. So the iPhone 17s were just announced.
Yeah.
This is typically like one of the most stressful, busy, hectic, hair pulling out times of year for me because we go and we make mock-ups for each of the phones and then we have to sort of deduce roughly, like we do a little bit of guessing at first that we refine later once the phones are out, but we have to kind of guess at it, make these mock-ups and create all these configuration files that dictate the size of the print files that come out the other end and what the mock-ups look like.
Hmm.
And it's very tedious. And there are, for up until recently, up until a couple of years ago, it was totally just, you just like open up a text editor and open these like JSON style config files and like, you know, convert the size of the thing from an SVG to a pixel resolution and copy that value into here, and then copy this value over there, and then you do this, copy these other things over here, and then you're writing out the instructions that dictate like the mock-ups, like scale it to this size or crop it here, scale it down, put this mask on it, put this overlay on it, save it out. All these various steps that are, it's not rocket science, but there's tons of opportunity to make a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at copying and pasting, apparently, or reading numbers in Photoshop and like not like dyslexifying them a little bit. And so we had this very crude tool that would do a lot of that work. It was just like a little JavaScript app. And so I think actually the very first thing I did with Cursor was make that app much more robust. And I explained what it did, it picked it up, and I said, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to process, I want to be able to drop a die line basically for a new, like Dell just announced a whole bunch of laptops. I want to be able to drop the die line for that into this folder and have it just do all the stuff in the background and push it up to our CMS and then send it to Shopify and update Shopify in several different areas. And it did it all, and it was awesome. So that's the other thing. So it's either like immediate savings on some sort of subscription thing that is of questionable value, and then just error reduction. Those are like the two main things that I'm trying to do.
Nice. Have you decided, have you had like a moment where like actually like, why am I spending all that time doing this, and I might as well just, the value of the software is just like really good, and if you were to recreate it, it would take you a lot of time. Have you had these situations?
I think that situation will come up when I'm starting to revisit the way our customizer works, because like it's very simple. You just upload an image and crop it basically, like, or position it within a template. But with all of the tools that exist now for image enhancement, like it would be tempting to want to create something that when someone uploads a low res web ripped image or an old photo that this happens all the time, they'll like have a photo from Instagram that they screenshot and they think that they're uploading sort of the original native photo, but really it's just the dimensions of the screen. And if it's a horizontal image on a portrait screen, it's not nearly big enough to print on a laptop skin, right? Like it by a factor of like 10. So, or at least 5 anyway. So ability to take their crappy image and fix it for them, something that we might do ourselves in Photoshop. I'm curious to see how I can just stitch tools together as opposed to like having a certain amount of infrastructure ourselves. So like actually having some hardware that would do that for us, because then you could ask it to, like, we work with DJs. We do a lot of skins for DJs because they're out and about and they want to promote themselves at the wedding or at the event or whatever. Many of them don't really have a graphic designer. So it would be very helpful to just, what's your DJ name? What's your Instagram account? And then link your account and we'll get a sense of your vibe. And then we'll just create a graphic that seems to suit your energy.
Yeah, your energy.
It has a little QR code generated for you in the corner. Things like that would be great. I feel like I could probably get lost down a crazy rabbit hole trying to configure all of that. And then I'm like,
maybe.
Should I just say like, go to ChatGPT, use this prompt, and then come back with the image and we'll upscale it for you if we need to?
Yeah. I guess it's when it comes down to complexity and maybe when you start adding like, stitching together a bunch of tools, etc. That's where like maybe it might make sense to have someone that's, I mean, if such a tool exists, like, to just,
at least like supervise. At least supervise the work. I think when it like probably a big differentiator that I'll have to really make sure that I'm aware of is like, is this a public facing product? Like, is this a tool that's going to be used sort of in production that I'm not monitoring, or is it just something that is making my, my life easier, or the lives of my crew easier?
Yeah.
Like this, I don't know how much awareness you have of all this like tariff stuff that's happening, but the most recent thing for all the Canadian e-commerce operators is that we, up until a month ago, we were able to ship across the border into the States. Anything below $800 value would just go through, like very little scrutiny, just ship it, no problem, no duties. That's gone now. So now everything, I think it's like $20 and under is like duty free, but that's not my stuff. So
Yeah.
now I have to, the carrier that I work with that gets things across the border has like engaged a third party broker. And so every single SKU that travels across the border has to be registered with the broker with like correct HS code and HS description and like all the sizes and weights and all that kind of stuff. And they need us to do it per product in a manual fashion right now. So the latest thing, it's just like it checks the box of like making the life easier for the shipping crew
Hmm.
because it's every day, every single SKU has to be registered. Everything that we're shipping to the States has to be registered. I spent a good chunk of yesterday trying to figure out how to use like with Claude Code and uh, Playwright, trying to get it to automate the Chromium
I
browser to
see. That's,
actually,
yeah.
oh my God, so much hair pulling on that
I
one.
know. I
It's like
know.
I've never used Playwright before. I've never tried to do any kind of browser automation, but
Yeah.
Jesus, it's something. But I know that if I do it, it'll be good because it'll just save half an hour for someone every single day. So that feels like a
Yeah.
justifiable effort.
Yeah. That's yeah, I mean, yeah, those things are like super nitpicky and obviously need to be super precise and hopefully
Hmm.
they don't change anything in the back end or like, on the front end, because otherwise that might like
Yeah,
screw up
totally.
what you have to do. But
I'm gonna
um,
start hounding them for like API access or something like that because this is just
yeah.
it's too much.
But yeah, I find so interesting how we're in a weird spot. And I think what you're saying right now is just like, I feel like this tool is like obviously like super powerful, and when you use it right, and like obviously if you have those product requirement documents that you were speaking about, that makes things easier to just keep track of the work and what you need to do. But just thinking that like, yeah, it's just like all that bureaucracy and like we're just using it to kind of get around it rather than
Hmm.
really try to strategize like how to make that workflow super efficient.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking with a consultant yesterday, and that's kind of what we're talking about is like, hey, why are we doing like 5% or 10% more improvement on this specific workflow where we could
Yeah.
potentially just like completely redesign that and be
Hmm.
way faster by incorporating those tools, from a strategic
I think
standpoint.
one of an example of that I've started some preliminary work on is my newsletters. So we have our email flows, but then in addition to that, we have whenever we put out some new artwork, like new products based on like new art from an artist who we work with, there's like we'll create a campaign email, right? But I find those emails just I like writing, but I don't like the setting up of stuff. I don't really like going into Klaviyo. Like there's something about
Yeah.
it that just irritates me. So step one of that would be to say, hey, I've just, in I guess Claude basically I would say like, hey, I've just launched an artist. This is his name, and then have that go and like pull some relevant information, like recent stuff that's happening, maybe some gallery events he's doing. Check the Shopify storefront to see what products have been added recently by him, and kind of pull all that into like a draft of an email that I could then edit and like take over the finish line. That feels like a massive new workflow opportunity for
Yeah.
me that would save like it takes you half a day each time to do something like that at least. And so
All
if
right. Yeah.
I could get that down to near instant where I'm just editing, then it would feel I guess what I'm looking for is to use this in a way that makes the business feel more lightweight and
Hmm.
smooth and free.
Yeah. I mean, I love, I've been like, I was raised and grew up with video games and stuff like that. And, the amount of effort that goes into designing those flows and making them like,
Hmm.
enjoyable and fun. I've always been like, why, it's like you go to school and you work and you're like, why is this so hard? Like
Hmm.
it feels like you're not, it just feels like a grind. Um,
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, it's pretty, I mean, I have a lot of hope, and I don't know if, we'll be able to get there, but I feel like, this is a nice first step to get there where like, you can at least have a bit more fun. And, like you were saying, like one of the big things that's super annoying is like in the past, what, 10 years or so, like a lot of the things that we've been doing is, okay, navigate between different tabs, different software
Yeah.
windows,
Yeah.
tasks, and it's always, okay, where's the information? Where do I need to find it? It's always a matter of like, how can I speed this up to get the right information at the right time, right? So then I just do
Yeah.
the work instead
Yeah.
of having to, change windows and all that stuff, which has like a pretty big kind of context switching effect on you. And it's kind of exhausting to be like, oh, where is that? And where do I need to find it? Oh, it's not there, or it's not the most accurate
That's
data.
right.
Was like what you're describing, and I feel like we're kind of personally that's what I'm trying to achieve as well. It's like, okay, how can I just like work in as much as possible one window, and then grab those pieces and bits of information, whether that's like on the internet or from your own databases, and then just coalesce everything, and then you're actually doing the work, right? Instead of
That's
like,
right.
hey, I'm just prepping all that stuff forever in order to just like get to the enjoyable part. But once you've done all that stuff, you're kind of like, I'm tired. This is not fun
Yeah.
anymore, you know?
Yeah. No, it's totally not fun. It's like going for a drive on a bumpy gravel road versus a freshly paved road, you know? And one of the other things is having a little bit of control over where you do the work. Like that newsletter system that I described could be actually better to be done in Slack or something like that in like a public channel, so other people can see my process and how I write and learn a little bit and not just get the finished result in the inbox. Because the more people know how I think, the more they can sort of imitate that to some extent and bring their own flavor to it. And then I can step back even on that in that domain a little bit and try something different.
That's interesting. I've been trying as well to, document what I'm doing as I'm doing it like in Cursor and things like that. How are you doing it right now? Because I'm assuming, for example, that script that you described, obviously you've built it and you've
Hmm.
probably, strategized over it. But if someone, like, how do you think about documenting that or maybe passing it over to someone?
Usually, once it's working, I'll ask it to like update the like Claude MD file with everything that we did and maybe mention some of the really sticky things that we had to overcome.
Mm, nice.
There isn't, I don't have a great process for that, and I haven't had to really hand it over yet to anybody, so maybe more needs to be done.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at least, yeah, definitely documenting it is a good, I mean, starting point, right? So even you don't forget what's going on, and yeah,
That's right. Yeah, or even like from one day to the next. Yeah, at the end of the day, if it's been a especially long and thorny day, this is one of the reasons why I switched from Cursor to Claude Code was because Cursor's conversation history, I would hit the end of it like a couple times a day, and then it just stopped. Like maybe they fixed this in the past few weeks, but it would just you just hit the limit, and then
hmm
it would start. That would be it. You'd like couldn't paste anything in, you couldn't mention anything, and you just sort of die. You just get ghosted, and so then you got to start a new one and try to figure out how to bring it up to speed. So anyway, at the end of a long day with like several problems, I would say update this
yeah,
and talk about make note of what we did here. And
nice.
we'll definitely do that with this horrible web browser scripting mission. God.
uh, yeah, it's not like a painful one.
Yeah.
Cool. A last one I want to go through. I know you're chatting with other e-commerce owners, so I'm curious. How are they seeing this whole AI thing? Like, and are they in the same situation as you, like trying it out, in terms of like coding and stuff like that, or what's their
Yeah,
perspective on what's going on?
most are not. In ecom, a lot of people, like a lot of brands are clothing brands and makeup brands, and they're very small and they're started by people who don't have an engineering degree or a type of product that is a little bit more technical to begin with, even though it's, you know, it's accessories, but we still use a lot of tech just to make our products visible on the website. Whereas many of the founders in the ecom group that I'm a part of, they just use classic sort of product photography, a lot of time just with their iPhone. Very not technical. There are some though who are interested and they've at least used it for the writing aspect of their business, which is cool, just to help with newsletters, help with social media, I suppose. I
Yeah.
still don't really use it much for that because I don't like what I get. I'm a very particular writer, I guess, and I
Yeah.
haven't taken the time to export everything that I've ever written everywhere and like pump it into some kind of, I don't know, rag or something to
Yeah.
actually sound like me. But there's tons of, I think this is an opportunity for the next generation of ecom founders to basically like leapfrog the existing
Hmm.
folks. And it's easy to look at the output of an AI generated ad and say, oh, well, that's obviously AI, but at the end of the day, no one's looking as closely as we are. And if
Hmm.
it sort of gets someone excited to try something, they're going to buy it. And the more people who do the buying, the faster that
Yeah.
company grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tricky. Think for, I think it's like, it's hard to find the balance of like accepting like a good enough thing
Hmm.
versus just saying like, I'm going to stay true to my roots. And I don't have the time to invest in all that and figure it out. Like, and I tried it once and it was crappy, you know,
Yeah.
and not like double down on it. But I think there are ways, like certainly like from a copywriting perspective or an idea generating perspective, it's a very easy entry point for ecom founders. But then beyond that, like if someone wanted to try coding, there's probably lots of ways, but you can you can start to like if you have information that comes in different places, like this community again, every day we're supposed to go and fill a spreadsheet out by gathering like a bunch of metrics from Shopify, like sales and traffic and percentage of new customers and things like that. And then our meta ad spend and our Google ad spend, um, pull all that into this one spreadsheet and it gives you like a snapshot for yesterday. As I said before, I'm not a big fan of copying and pasting.
That
I've
sounds
managed to
like a
make
lot.
mistakes constantly. And so I wrote a script to do that and it runs on like Google Apps script. And every day I get and it sends me a message in Slack with the summary, updates that spreadsheet so that I can reference it during my coaching calls. I had like massive bot traffic problem and it even goes and runs some like filtering algorithms that I did not come up with. I've just suggested some stuff to clean out bot traffic. So I actually get, instead of having it's not a huge company. So normally traffic would be in the range of like 1,000 sessions per day, but I was getting like 10,000 sessions. And so that rendered all of my metrics in Shopify and in this spreadsheet to be just totally meaningless. I installed Cloudflare which helped. And then I used this
Oh, I
little
see.
Google Analytics filter bot to filter it out even further and have a bit more control over it. So
That's
something
cool.
like that was really useful. And again, adds that like lightness feeling.
Yeah. And I guess I mean, that's probably a good, I mean, if probably if you have the desire to do that, because obviously, you understand complexity and different, systems, how they interact together because of your background. And you can
Yeah.
interact with those tools. So like potentially there's a lot of value you can provide by creating those tools for you and maybe eventually, I think you've thought about that, packaging them
That's right.
for your industry.
Yeah. Just something that other people could go through the process of logging in, like adding it as an app Shopify, log into Meta, log into Google Analytics, log into Google
Yeah,
Ads.
that's
I
a
wouldn't
lot.
need to, like, it wouldn't be like a revenue driver or anything like that. I think it's a pretty niche thing.
Hmm.
Um, but it would be useful and it might help get someone excited about trying some of that stuff on their own.
Yeah.
So even people who like something to, maybe they have some tedious process involving inventory updating or something like that. They're nowhere near big enough to get on NetSuite or Sage or some other ERP platform. They have a Google spreadsheet and no way to get it from Shopify to the Google, so they could maybe have something that tracks their emails for orders that have been placed and then goes and updates the increment, decrements the inventory by 1 for those products or something like that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
little things just make things feel light.
Yeah, I mean, let's wrap it up there, but I really like that. And I think that's what everyone's looking for, right? You just don't want to have feel like you're going to have a heavy day and it's not going to be fun. You want to be like, okay, this is going
Yeah,
to be maybe there'll be a little bit of grinding, but most of it is going to be, doing fun stuff that I enjoy and actually move the needle rather than
that's
being
right.
bogged down by those little things that need to be done but don't,
Well, I
provide
think
like
it's the
energy.
problem that whether you're like a founder, like a technical founder writing an app, or if you're in ecom or whatever, they got into that business to make that thing, whether it's a digital tool or a physical one.
Yeah.
I'm most happy thinking about phone cases and thinking about art. I don't really like the administrative side of things at all. And so I don't do it as much as I should. And that's obviously
Hmm.
not good either. So
Yeah.
and I don't want things to pile up. And, from a marketing perspective, most founders got into it because they liked the creation, the sort of like the artistic aspect of what it is that they made. And they kind of liked the grind in that sense. But promoting it is not usually everyone's forte.
Yeah.
And so tools to help with the promotion of whatever it is that you made, I think are going to be extremely useful. And that's what this whole vibe thing is. And I haven't gotten too far into it, but that's the next thing. I've like cleared the plate of all the like annoying tedium in my day, it seems like most of it. And I'm
Nice.
excited to
That's
get
cool.
into the like sort of output generating scripts and tools and things like that to force me to talk and force me to share and
Hmm.
make it easier to do that.
Super cool. Yeah, it seems like you're in a pretty good position, based on your background to, really leverage those tools and go as far as you can with
Yeah,
those. And I'm sure you're going to learn and be able to have like more, you explore more possibilities and, new possibilities are going to open because of that. So yeah, I'm
for
sure it's going
sure.
to be very fun for you.
Definitely.
Nice.